It's time to spill the tea on Vegas tea time.
Welcome back, everybody. It's Jeff
And Christina.
with another episode of Vegas Tea Time. This is episode 7 for May 23rd, 2025, where we're spilling the tea on all your Vegas stories and all the newest headlines that have happened this week in Las Vegas. And we're here to discuss it. Right, Christina?
Yeah, I mean, like we always say, there's always something going on.
Yes, we made some tweaks to the Vegas Tea Time, still spilling the tea on the stories, but there's a lot of news that happens in between our monthly news updates that we were saying last time. So
don't put them all in one. I mean, they'll be in there.
Yeah.
But all in the, monthly update. And so we decided to kind of split it up and then put it all in one.
We need a forum to talk about everything that's happened during the week, and this is a perfect place for it.
That's always the thing is like I want to talk about it. Only time I get a chance to really talk about anything is on chat. And no one really, I mean, not in a bad way, but everybody's chatting. People are talking to you.
Right.
You're answering people, and I don't get to answer the way, people ask and they don't see.
Plus, you're just typing. You're not actually speaking either.
Exactly. The interaction is that texting, typing drives me crazy because you're not talking to somebody,
Exactly.
So this way we get to go back and forth and ask you guys what your thoughts are on whatever we're talking about because we love to know what you think.
Drop in the comments below.
Yeah. So, and people like the back and forth with us, discussing everything.
Yeah, and especially when we're talking about spilling the tea, don't forget to submit your stories down in our Google Doc form, which we have in all of these videos. It's easy to do. You can do it anonymously. It doesn't have to be crazy or embarrassing. It could be something fun or something you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this happened, or I didn't realize this was happening in Vegas. And we have a story coming up a little later where definitely can relate when it comes to the last live stream, if you caught that.
Yeah,
but, there is a lot of things going on. And we heard this week, Christina, that F1, of course, is coming back for their third year.
As everybody knows and has been talking about.
Yes, and this will be kind of the deciding year that is going to determine whether they keep going after this. I think a lot of people in town that want this to happen will probably end up making it happen. I don't know.
But there's a lot of people residents, people that work
so,
on the strip don't want it to happen again, ever.
And then it just came out too that, and this has been talked about even since last year, is that they wanted to make this whole weekend like a destination. So if you're not a fan of F1, which there's, they kind of get, because last year they did the Neon City Festival down on Fremont Street.
And that was cool because you're in two separate parts of the city.
And you're not
so one didn't overlap the other.
Yeah, you weren't really affected by the traffic. You could just go down the 15. You really weren't affected by going onto the strip. But now
this year, oh joy.
Yeah, this year, and they did kind of warn us about this.
Yeah, but this is kind of like, as I always say, really?
Yeah.
No, like, really?
Yeah.
Whose idea was this and why?
Yeah, so on Saturday, they have a UNLV game, right, at Allegiant Stadium.
Okay, this is the same weekend as F1. I'm just letting everyone know to get that wrapped around your brain.
But that's what that was my point, is that was entirely their point last year, is they wanted to have something for everybody. But I don't know, did people actually think about the traffic?
They don't care. Because they do whatever they need to do that doesn't affect them.
Right.
And that's what really agitates me, because it's like, well, that's cool. I get it. However, it doesn't matter. That's fine. But those of us, if you're streaming, people that pay to go, maybe that aren't staying in a hotel, locals, whatever, even if they're not going there, this will all affect everyone.
Yeah.
Everywhere.
So we've got Allegiant Stadium now having events. So Saturday's going to be a UNLV game, and then
and let's
Sunday
just bring on a Raiders game.
Yeah,
on
and Sunday is a Raiders game.
Yeah.
So you're going to have all that going on. The only saving grace, I will say, and to give a little benefit of the doubt, is that the racetrack goes down Harmon.
Yeah.
And so Allegiant Stadium is is down by Mandalay Bay.
Right.
So it is pretty far, but as we know with all the football games, especially football game Saturday, football game Sunday, is that people park all in the different lots around the strip. So
But that's the whole point with this. It's not just having the games. Cool. Yeah, there's something else to do. But it's what everything else that's involved with it. Now you're going to have more hotels booked up at atrocious levels for, for rooms, the parking, the traffic, the airport nightmare of more people. It's just like, so you're taking all the F1 stuff that's already gone on over the last couple of years. That has been bad.
right.
And I'm not being negative. Everybody knows, and if you don't know, just for the whole local scene and the corridor, the strip corridor, everything, it's been really tough. And then you're going to add two more major things.
Right.
That
Well, I
'cause, you know,
think
the-
I think what their whole intention is that they know they're getting a lot of feedback about
course.
F1, but they also know, even though the Raiders have had losing season after losing season, they know that people come in town for Raider games.
Yeah, of course they do.
And UNLV is still very popular among their sports that they have there.
Yeah.
So that all makes sense. So what they're doing, again, trying to throw a little bit of the benefit of the doubt, is that they're trying to give something for everyone. So if you want to go downtown, I believe they're still going to have the Neon Festival again. Neon's.
I'm not sure. I'll
yeah.
have to look into it because there's things that go on more now until I go look at that.
But
So,
even if there's not, people always got Fremont Street with the free bands
Yeah.
and all that happening down there. I'm
Yeah.
sure they're going to do something. So there's literally something you can do all around the city that doesn't have to involve F1.
Right.
So that is good. And we're speaking of like everybody doing or trying to find parking
Yep.
when they do Allegiant Stadium
Yep.
and they go to those games. Well, there's one more, of course, parking spot that's unavailable, and that's the Tropicana.
Yeah.
And of course-
that used to be available. Yeah.
Yep. And now the Tropicana has almost completely cleared out, and now they're starting to put the footings for the ballpark.
Yeah.
for
Literally in the
A's.
ground. Mm-hmm.
And so they are already starting that work, and officially they hope to be completely underway by June. And we still don't know if there's financing for this stadium.
No, we just keep hearing the same rhetoric over and over again.
Yep.
And I hate to say that, you guys, but we do.
Mhm.
And we're thinking, oh, they've got funding. No. And I think I said this last time we talked about the A's. I've thought that the first time they came out and said, oh, we have this, we have that. And then I saw other people that were thinking the same thing as me. It's like they just come out and they try to keep relevant.
Right.
They just try to keep their name out there that they're doing something funding wise, not physically like it's going on now. But that happening doesn't mean anything, though.
Right.
I mean, how many
There's-
times
there's-
has stuff
there-
been halted around here?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
We still have two posts, speaking of the Tropicana, right a block away that have been there before we even moved
and they
here.
were supposed to take it away.
Yeah, that was supposed to be another like high roller,
Yeah.
Ferris wheel, whatever you want to
That's
call
what
it.
they were gonna do. That's when they were gonna actually do a whole England, London out thing there. Remember that was all gonna be there. They were gonna have like a mini.
Right.
Yeah, that was all gonna be there, and then that stopped. They already had all the requirements, and they had the drawings, and they had everything for it, and they went, yeah,
And
no.
then down the way, was supposed to be the Dream Hotel,
Yeah.
down there by the Pinball Hall of Fame. That hasn't happened.
Yeah, there's some work going on, and people are kind
I
of.
don't think there's even work going on.
There was a little while ago. There really was.
Did they restart again?
Yeah, but now again, who knows?
And then they, of course, they have where the Riviera was, where by the convention center. That's now blacktop. Now they also have next to Boulevard, Till and Fertitta's place.
Yes.
That's all where the Tex-Mex place. Although, hey, I know people were out of jobs for all these souvenir stores, Fat Burger, and all that, but that was a nuisance. That whole area was just, it wasn't very great. It didn't look very good
No, it
across
didn't
from
look- yeah.
the nice city center of Aria and all that. So
Exactly. It didn't. It was kind of old for the strip.
yeah.
You
So I think everybody doesn't want to see another part of Vegas history erased when, trust me, bro, we have the money for the A's ballpark, right?
This is what we keep hearing,
Yeah.
but we don't hear. I don't know. It's frustrating
Yep.
because we just keep repeating ourselves, but that's what we keep hearing is the
Again,
same thing over and over.
yeah, again, if we had an expansion team for Las Vegas, like everybody wanted, locals, everybody would be way right behind this whole adventure
Yep.
and would be excited about it.
Yep.
For the next 3 years, it'd be like, oh, the Las Vegas whatever
Yep.
are coming.
Yep.
We've got our Aviators, our minor league team,
Yeah.
but everybody would be excited because that's how the Golden Knights,
Yep.
they were an NHL expansion team.
Mhm, yeah.
And
A lot
so,
of people don't realize that, which is what I've seen through comments, like in chat and through some of our videos. So when we start talking about the A's, and
yeah,
not being negative, just saying how it is when you live here,
Yeah.
like what we kind of see. There's a lot of people like, yeah, you were probably the same way when it came to the Golden Knights. So I'm like, no. The
Mhm.
only thing that was said is, okay, hockey in the middle of the desert. Let's see how that plays out. Yeah, well,
yeah,
we did,
yeah.
we got the Stanley Cup. But no, it was not, and a lot of people don't realize that it's not the same thing. It's
Right.
not at all, so you can't compare,
And it's
apples
just-
to apples.
And it's just the whole ownership of the A's. They do not have a good rep as
Right.
far as around the league.
Right.
And now they're playing in a minor league ballpark. They're getting even the players are complaining about. I'm like, I'm in the big leagues.
Yeah.
What's this?
Yeah.
And so,
No, I know they did a whole big to do. I believe it was last month or the beginning of this month.
mhm.
They had a whole big celebration that they were going to be starting this, and
Yep.
there's a lot of money I'm sure that went into that
Mhm.
because of all the things that were posted out there. Yeah, looked great. Again,
I'm just waiting for, if this does get done, I'm waiting for them to say, well, because everything goes over budget, right?
oh, well,
this
it's
thing's
already over budget.
This thing's going to take, yeah, exactly.
It's already over budget.
This ballpark of the A's is going to be $2 billion, if not more,
Yeah.
by the end of the day. Because it started again at 1.1 billion,
Mhm.
then 1.4 billion, now 1.7 billion to build a ballpark on the Las Vegas Strip.
That's I mean, there's just
Yeah.
I'm not going to say anything. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just a whole
What's very interesting is that when you get more views on shorts or reels or
and then the
your
trolls come
YouTube
in.
videos, then yeah, exactly. Bots, trolls, whatever they
Yeah,
are.
what are they are
And
now?
and I used to think, like when channels were getting bigger, I'm like, they're not even commenting back to these people. Well, now I know why, because it's just, for one thing, it gets a ton of comments. And I've heard from some bigger channels, it's like, hey, we do, the liking of comments and replies on the first day, but that's it, because it's
becomes-
unrealistic. There's no way you could keep up with that.
Did you see that somebody just commented again today
No.
on the Halloween gravesite video?
Are you kidding
I'm
me?
like, dude, did you see this was 4 years ago?
You want to talk about an evergreen video that has life even beyond Halloween? Our famous graves that I made 4 years ago now.
On a whim.
Yeah,
On a whim for Halloween. Mm-hmm.
and now has over, I don't know, 110,000 views or something.
Yeah, so some guy commented today, I don't know, and again, it was a dumb
Yeah.
comment because it was like, bro or dude, are you trying to produce a music video or are you trying to be informative? And I just went, swipe, because you know me. I used to, as a background, I used to be an admin for kind of a fun, kind of
Message board.
message board. And we were known for kind of being the meanies,
The snarkies.
snarky. Not, we weren't mean. We were just kind of super sarcastic, super snarky. And so it's really hard for me because that was our personality. I mean, Jeff and I are like that anyway, but my girlfriends and I are just like that. We always had fun with everything and people love that message board. So with this, it's like I have to set my admin self aside and go, no, Christina,
Mm-hmm.
This is not like the same as the other board that you were on,
Yeah.
But there's people that have left, some really like rude, stupid comments. And I go, trolls, trolls,
Yep.
trolls, trolls. They just come on here, they see it's popular, they make some stupid comment.
And unfortunately, Christina, there is another closing to talk about this time. Downtown Hogs and Heifers.
Yeah.
That's the wild, crazy place where bartenders are dancing almost like
Well, it's like
Coyote Ugly.
Yeah, exactly. Coyote
And
Ugly right there.
so there's a bunch of drama, unfortunately, with this, with the owner, and she's trying to do right and everything else.
She's
but
been awesome the whole time.
so
that
what's going on with that?
I knew already that the Rolling Stone, like magazine or part of that whole corporation,
It's
Penske
the
Media.
Penske Media that
Mhm.
owns Billboard, Rolling Stone, and a whole bunch of other things.
Yeah, so they're the ones that want to buy
Downtown Grand.
Downtown Grand. They don't want Hogs and Heifers across the way and be owning them as well. So they want them. They want them to close. So their lease is not going to be renewed,
Mm-hmm.
even though they haven't done anything to cause that. She's only been like the most positive in the community around there, bringing everybody in there. There's no reason for it, but they don't want it. So that's kind of the whole thing back and forth with her and fighting with the city that, hey, look, So no, Penske Media is not going to be renewing it. They shelved Life is Beautiful
Right.
before. Remember, that's why that got canceled
Yep.
because they're in charge of all that. And then
Wasn't there some kind of where she took them to court and then she won?
yeah, she took
won.
them all to court. She took the Grand to court because of all this kind of going
Okay.
on, and she won a couple $100,000, but she still hasn't seen it.
Still tied up in all the legal
Yeah.
appeals and all that
Yeah.
stuff. The date's going to be coming up. It's July 6th,
July
right?
6th, yeah.
So we'll see if that closes. And unfortunately, there's another pretty famous restaurant that has just closed
Yeah.
on May 17th.
Yeah.
Mr. Chow.
Yeah.
Caesars has announced, and they announced before. Unfortunately, Mr. Chow has closed.
Yeah.
And they were famous for their big $1,000 gold wrap filet mignon. And I'm reading it because we would never go there. I think if we had all the money in the world, I don't know if I'd go for $1,000 gold filet mignon, but it apparently was, all the opulent dishes and
Right.
all that.
Right.
And
I don't like
but-
to pay a super lot of money for food that's not going to last me when I
No.
could go buy something else
Exactly.
that I can have and hold on to. Or
It's like when I say go down
Use-
Fremont Street, there's a $60 large pepperoni pizza at that pizza place down there. When you know damn well you could drive 15 minutes to get a $9.99 Costco pizza.
that's your favorite to compare it to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
like with all the with like Mr. Chow and all the restaurants, and we've talked about it. Seems like ad nauseum of all the stuff that's expensive, but it's true. Like the economy, people are feeling it, and everything else. I've always said that like when we don't do a lot of staycations, and there will be more staycations coming up, but what I try to do, even though the big suites are really fun to look at, but it's not practical. We
no,
want to
especially when it. I don't mean to interrupt you. I'm sorry.
yeah, no, I was just going to say, especially when, the average visitor wants to see what a typical room looks like, what a typical stay would be, plus not breaking the bank and maybe actually having a couple bucks to gamble with.
Yeah, and that's the whole thing is, especially if we do a staycation, our staycations are so quick that we don't even get a chance to enjoy it ourselves, and not to be in a selfish, mode about it. But if we have to pay that much money
Yeah.
to do a staycation, I'd like to enjoy it.
Right.
I mean, that's part of it.
Well, it's part of bringing to our audience
what they
with the
can afford.
yeah, a practicality. And I think if Vegas is always going to, whatever the economy is always going to bounce back. Considering we had the big situation, everything closed down.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, everything bounced back from that. But, people that are going to start going like, I just can't afford it. We've heard that over and over in our comment section. We're just not going to come now. So you've got to think that, again, we alluded to this last week, that the first hotel or property or restaurant that starts offering like, hey, we've got your discounted,
What is-
old school shrimp cocktail. I'll let other people that are far more qualified. I will stay in our lane when it comes to food.
Yeah,
There are
we're
far
not.
better people out there that can do the food
I mean, look
videos.
at look at Lisa and Bill. They're
Yep.
great. Jay,
Yeah.
he's great at it. Norma, Lydia, they're all great at it. Watch them when it comes to food. They love food. They
We
love
love
talking,
food, but
but we're not foodies in the
right.
way of. And I will say that a million times. I can never eat like that.
Yeah.
I can't eat really fast, so that it's like
Well,
then your food gets
and
cold.
admittedly, I'm a pretty, as I said, Midwestern boy. Meat and potatoes.
Hmm.
My pizza. I'm not boring. By any stretch of
No,
imagination.
you eat other food,
Yeah.
but you're just kind of like comfort food,
Right.
and that's the way a lot of South.
And that's what I want to focus on, possibly in the near future, is like if we're going to do anything kind of food, something that everybody can relate to, and comfort food
Yeah,
and whatnot.
yeah.
That's our lane, and
Hmm.
giving news for everybody that's coming here. But hopefully there'll be some hotels or properties or restaurants that'll start to go like, we need to get some business back here.
Hmm.
Let's be the one that'll get the people here and get some good press.
It's funny that, and again, I don't mean to interrupt you, but they were talking about the comparisons of the boomers to Gen Xers to
Millennials,
not boomers, Gen Xers, millennials, and
Gen Z,
Gen Z, and
and
this.
Gen Alpha now.
Oh God, don't.
Yep,
How old are the Gen Alphas?
that's born
12,
after 2010, I think. 2009, 2010.
15.
Yeah, so that's Gen
Man,
Alpha, I think.
I can't even. So I just can't. But they were actually comparing what money is spent with what.
Right.
Who spends the most on hotels?
Hmm.
What gen? Who spends the most on food? Who spends the most on entertainment? Who spends the most on going across the board on that? And really realizing now that they've realized that they're going to need to start focusing their attention towards Gen Z,
Yeah.
big time.
Well, and speaking of Gen Z and people that are a little
Mm.
younger, with Area 15, and they keep expanding onto that
Yeah, yeah.
with their Universal Horror Nights.
Yep.
And now you've got the big 747 that we told you about.
Yep.
The Review Journal just went in this past week, got an exclusive look
Mhm.
at that. That's going to be its own space with that 747. If you drive by the 15 right now, you can kind of see inside anyway.
Where was that from again? Burning Man, Coachella. Where was that
Burning
from?
Man. Yep.
Burning Man. I
Yeah,
thought
that
so.
they brought it in.
They brought it in, so that's like a really big symbol. It's not just a
And
747.
And I think that is going to be I think it's a good thing. There's going to be a lot more options in Vegas besides the typical gambling, high-end
That's what they're
restaurants.
saying.
It's going to be more overall entertainment. So if you want to do the really cool, like when Universal Horror opens up this year, and you're into that whole scare tactics
Yeah, they said they're
things.
done with those buildings now.
Yeah.
So that's finished. And
Well,
then
they
they've
got to
got.
do the inside.
No, I
They-
just meant
yeah.
building.
Yeah.
The buildings.
They're making that a whole living community
Yes.
too.
Mm-hmm.
So with apartments and probably some condos, I would assume.
Yeah. Yeah.
It'll be that part has been a little not clear.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe because they're making sure that they could actually do it or whatever. Maybe they're not just announcing everything like the A's and just saying, "Oh,
we're
it's
gonna do this and pay for it.
it's gonna
and
happen."
It's gonna happen.
I wouldn't
Yeah.
doubt if there's condos over there. And I mean, especially, with me doing, the real estate here. And by the way, doing a new series, Movie Mondays,
Mhm.
which you should all check out if you want to know
Just kind of looking at all the different neighborhoods
if
and
you want to know what neighborhoods look like and what a home looks like that's a median home in Vegas. Check out Movie Mondays. That's a new series on our channel.
Yep.
But anyway, there's a lot of stuff that's going to be coming to Vegas that's opening that's not necessarily typical Vegas things, and that will cater to those Gen Z and millennials and people that are a little younger
Mhm.
that may
That's what they're really like trying to, look at this and see like, okay, we need to make some major Vegas changes because Vegas has been, I don't want to say the same because of course there's been changes. I mean, my God, but catering to the same thing, you know, make it a little bit, nicer, building new hotels or whatever. It's still Vegas.
Right.
But now they're like, crap. We have like a whole new or two generations, and then looking at what is it, Generation Alpha?
Yeah.
Oh God, Slim Sherry,
Yeah,
we just love this stuff.
They'll be turning 21 in the next few years.
Yeah,
And they'll be, back in the day it was like the early when you turned like 21, you went to the biggest nightclubs, and while they're still there like Hakkasan and Omni and all
they're
those
there.
clubs, and people do go to them.
Yep.
But there is this trend to do more entertainment than just nightclub because
yeah.
that's expensive.
Because guess what, too?
Yeah.
Those millennials or Gen Zs, they're going to get older.
Yeah.
And then they're going to look for other things to do. And millennials, my gosh, I have to think about it because my cousin, she's a millennial. And I'm like, oh, yeah, Emily is not that young anymore. That's how I kind of relate it to her age,
Yep.
And yeah, they're going to be getting older and looking for other things to do. And I don't think that it's a good idea, but I have read that they will maybe look a little bit at doing something separate where the families can do more, but make it family friendly and make it a little bit different part of the strip. I have seen that. I just kind of go, okay, yeah, whatever. I don't think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
But,
Speaking of family and everything, hot take, or maybe not so much of a hot take, but can we stop bringing the strollers to Vegas? Can we just, hey, get the babysitter, enjoy your time here. You don't need to bring the 5 kids and 3 strollers.
It's not made for kids.
No, especially down on Fremont Street. We talked about this, and some of our subscribers have talked about this. In the very beginning, when we started our channel, we're like, especially when it happened to be right after the whole 2020 thing, we wanted to keep it positive, right?
Yeah, it was easier then too, though, because you could get it. People wanted to travel.
Yeah.
People wanted to get out of the house.
Yeah.
And they would bring the family. It's just like, let's go somewhere.
Yeah.
Okay, it's been 5 years.
And at that time, everybody wanted people to come to Vegas. They were, low room rates at like the Wynn and everything else.
Yeah.
But Vegas is 21 and up for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
And while there are very many family friendly, like Circus has been here since the 60s.
Yeah.
And there are those things. And with the Mirage being gone, Steve Wynn was kind of one of the first to do the theme. Well, he was the first to do a themed hotel that brought the younger generation and brought the families and brought Clark Griswold.
And those younger families are now older.
Yes, exactly.
That's just kind of what I'm saying is like that's unfortunately now how they're, well, not unfortunately, but that's how they're looking at it,
Exactly.
It didn't matter before because everything was that way for Vegas. I mean, that's the way it was, And if you got older, well, then you have that generation, the older generation of the people getting older that were still here, But unfortunately, a lot of those people are gone now.
Yeah.
And so keeping that older generation going has become, I think, harder for the hotels. And that's why you've got, like, Cosmo, I think, was built and you had the younger generation, and they've kept it trendy, and they've kept it kind of for the younger, and I say younger, millennials, whatever. And so now they're looking at some of that too, going, oh, well, we might have to take a second look at how this is going too.
Exactly.
So it's interesting to see all these different things that are changing here, but how it's changing and why. And, hopefully in the recognition of the age thing and the spending, they start realizing like, oh, okay, this is not working. Because people that are older are also, a lot of them are on limited budgets that used to love to come to Vegas and gamble.
Right.
Well, a lot of them, they don't have that money anymore. And then
Right.
with this going on, this is not making it easier,
And speaking of the Mirage and Vegas Vacation,
Yes,
which is
yes.
now transitioning into the Hard Rock.
Yeah.
If people were on our live stream this past weekend, you might have seen that they're making some significant progress on this guitar tower that they have, and where the volcano was. And again, the Hard Rock's supposed to be open at the end of 2027.
2028.
And maybe 2028. And so we'll see what happens with that. It'll be interesting. Speaking of our live stream, there was a story that was submitted this week, and it kind of
I
relates
didn't
to
see
the,
it.
well, it really relates to our live stream and what was going on our Saturday night.
Real.
If you haven't checked out our live stream from this previous weekend, you can go check out the replay, or you should definitely just make it a part of your Saturday night routine and, watch our live streams.
Yeah, we're always we. Okay, I'm on chat at home, but Jeff is always out. Come hell or high water, come rain, come wind, come snow. Oh, he'll go out there if it's snowing. He will just drive down there.
And I think that's the reason why we might have got our latest tea time story that was submitted this week. I'm going to read it real quick.
Okay.
We'll spill the tea.
Spill the tea.
And she said, this is Nicole. I'll read it right here from San Diego. Good place. We like San Diego.
Hi, Nicole. Thank you for sending that in.
I just want to share this little Vegas moment from last weekend because apparently I missed the memo that Vegas has wind.
I think a lot of us missed the memo that it was going to be that bad.
Yeah, everybody that moves here goes, I did not realize this Vegas wind was really a big
We're
thing.
in the middle of the desert.
Yep. She said, I was staying at the Horseshoe, decided to walk the strip Saturday afternoon, had my little crossbody bag, sunglasses on top of my head, and a wide-brimmed sun hat that I thought made me look cool. She said, I got about halfway to Planet Hollywood when the wind hit me like a freight train. I'm not talking about a breeze. I mean full-on, hair-whipping, dirt in your eyes, hang on to your drink kind of wind.
If you were on the stream,
Yep.
Jeff was there.
My hat took off like it had somewhere to be. I chased it for about 20 feet and I gave up and I said, let it go, let it live its best life.
That's all you can do.
Yeah.
There's no running and getting it back.
At one point, a woman near me was yelling to her husband, hold the stroller, I can't see. It was chaos, but also kind of hilarious. I finally ducked into the Miracle Mile shops just to get a break from it. People in there looked like they just escaped a dust storm, because he did.
I was going to say, you did.
One guy even made a joke that he thought Vegas was supposed to be glamorous, not gritty. Always
that's
trolls, and even trolls in real life, right?
Exactly.
And later that night, I saw your live stream and literally laughed out loud because you were out in the same wind looking just as over it as I was. And
I can't even imagine being out there watching you live. I'm like, oh my God, just stop.
so yeah, next time, she says, so yeah, next time I come to Vegas, I'm packing for wind. Hat stay home and lip gloss is officially banned.
Yeah.
Thanks for keeping me on company on your walks. I'll be back soon with better hair prep.
Yeah,
Love it.
that's
Thanks,
why-
Nicole.
Yeah, thank you, Nicole. Appreciate that. And I appreciate you sending that in. That's awesome. So yeah, thank you.
Did you see speaking of our Saturday night live stream, I posted this short or reel from our live stream this week, and it was the crane. Speaking of the Mirage, has these two huge, large cranes that, for construction for this big guitar tower.
Yeah.
And one of them was blowing in the wind in a circle, and it went like this close from the other tower. And from my view, it looked like it was going to hit it.
Well, yeah, the way that you were standing there, that's a thing that a lot of people, either if they didn't see the stream or you can't really tell that much from the video just because they weren't with like you going back and around. But there's a lot of people that did say, well, this is why it does it. Okay, well, thanks for letting us know.
But what I don't understand is like, oh yeah, that's meant to happen. Then why didn't the other one do that?
That's what I don't understand. The
I've
one
heard
was
that.
like locked. That's what I'm saying. It
But
looked
then
like,
everybody said, no, it's supposed to be unlocked because of those situations. So
Yeah, I don't
one
know.
was supposedly doing what it was supposed to, and the other one was not.
yeah, I don't know.
It's
I
either
wasn't-
or, it doesn't make
I know.
sense.
So we got a lot of comments on that. How many views?
I don't know, crazy.
Just crazy views. But yeah, that was really odd
well,
to see that.
we just had EDC this past weekend. Looked like a really good time, but they even shut down some stages out there because the wind was so bad.
Yeah, there's a lot
But
of videos from people that were out there like, holy crap,
that's
you
why
know.
when everybody's like, these crazy Vegas wins. I'm like, well, I got a crazy Vegas win story from our live stream. So
yeah.
that's why we posted that. But
we do get a lot of wind, just normal wind, which drives me crazy because I said one time in a live stream, like during the summer, especially because that's when spring and summer is when we get a lot of wind. I just want to wear my hair up in a ponytail.
Yeah.
It's so not worth it to do your hair.
Exactly.
So, yeah, we have a lot of wind out here.
Well,
It's
even
the desert.
when I started the stream, about 20 minutes in, I even kind of pre-warned people because I'm like, I have contacts. And so, one of those granules gets in the eye, and I had a couple that kind of got in there like 20 minutes into the live stream. And I'm like, oh boy. I'm like, guys, I don't know if I get something caught in there, I might have to end the stream. Luckily, it kind of went away. We did a live stream for like 2.5 hours. The crane thing that happened was pretty much at the end of the live stream.
Gusts that were going on.
Yeah, and so
50
then
miles an hour.
So here perfect timing. I end the live stream and I start walking back to the car. I'm like, oh, and I got a piece of dust, dirt, sand, whatever in my eye, and I had to throw out my contact. I could not get it out.
I know when you came home, you're like, I gotta take my contacts out.
Yeah. So again, this wind is definitely no joke here in Vegas. And again, thank you to Nicole for submitting your Vegas tea time story. That was a fun one and very relatable to what we're doing right now.
Very, especially since she sent it and going, hey guys.
If you want to submit your story, hit the form, hit the link below. Tell us your story. Again, it could be something fun like that. It could be something that was a little embarrassing.
Your first time in Vegas.
You want to do it anonymously. You could definitely do that. I think that's a wrap for Vegas Tea Time episode 7.
I think so. Time goes by so fast.
Time does go by fast. So thank you, everybody, for joining us on this episode of Tea Time. And folks, if you've made it to the end of this very long video / podcast, our Vegas Tea Time, put 702 as the keyword down in the comments below, and that way we know that you've watched the end. We're trying to build up this show just almost like a new channel, like I've said before.
Yeah, like a new podcast.
Yep. So hit that thumbs up, subscribe, and turn on those...
You can hit it. I can't reach it.
Bell notifications. And Emma's like, what was that? Turn on those bell notifications so you could be alerted to all of our new videos, including our live streams, like we said we do on Saturday night. All right, everybody, until the next one, stay safe.
And stay silly.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye. What is that? Emma's confused.